So welcome everyone to join today's webinar here. We're very glad to welcome everybody. This is the first time that Israel and Taiwan co-host such an event on the topic of maritime technology. So it's a pleasure to have everybody here. Now we will have the head of the Israel Economic and Trade Mission, Mr. Tzli Lahav, to give us a speech, the opening remarks. So please.
Thank you very much, Esther. I would like to ask everyone from our participants to mute themselves if they are not speaking, so we can all enjoy. Esther, you can also mute everyone. Yes. So thank you very much for joining us today. As Esther mentioned, this is a very unique event. So we are all by now should be very much familiar with this concept of online events. We chose to make the event today a bit more intimate in a different platform. Usually we're doing the webinars where all of the participants are blocked from participating. Today we chose all of the participants from Taiwan single-handedly and very, very specifically for the Israeli companies and for the event today, since we see a lot of importance in this topic of today's webinar. So maritime technologies for both Israel and Taiwan is crucial and strategic sector, both countries, obviously Taiwan being an island, being an ocean powerhouse with 3 of the top 10 global shipping companies being Taiwanese, but also with the current atmosphere in the neighborhood in Taiwan, the water is going to be a very, very strategic place in the years to come. And also for Israel, the sea is our only gate to the world. As some of our Taiwanese participants might know, Israel is also an island. We might not be surrounded by ocean like Taiwan, but de facto, an Israeli cannot take his car and drive outside of the borders of the country. The only way out is via plane or a boat. So for both countries, the maritime technology is a strategic resource, and I couldn't be happier than to have this event today to bridge between our 2 countries, Israel being in the most western part of Asia, Taiwan in the eastern part of Asia. I think in the current global climate today of the global supply chain challenges and struggles, both Taiwan and Israel can play a crucial role in bringing the world back into sanity. So I would like to thank again for everyone who took the time to be with us today. We appreciate you being here. We appreciate your time. I would like to welcome everyone that has any questions or want to have additional information about Israel, about the sector, and specifically about each and every one of the Israeli amazing companies that we will hear today. Please contact us directly at the Israel Economic and Trade Mission in Taipei. For Esther Teng, my trade officer, who is responsible for the successful event today. And for that, I would like to thank her very much. And also to thank our amazing partners from the Israel Export Institute, to Ms. Nofar and Tal Simantov, of whom we will hear shortly. And finally, but not least, to our keynote speaker, Mr. Wen, that is gracing us with his presence here today, and Mr. Gadi Ben Moshe, who unfortunately, because of his timetable, had to pre-record his speech today, but I'd like to thank all of them, and obviously to the amazing Israeli companies that will give us the content today. Shisheni, thank you all very much, and I would love to see all of you personally in the amazing beaches of Israel next year.
Thank you, Tzli. Okay, so it's my pleasure to welcome the head of the Homeland Security, Aerospace and Supply Chain from the Israel Export Institute to also give us a little intro about IEI.
So Tal won't be joining us due to timetable, so I will be presenting shortly. So hi everyone, thank you very much for joining us today. First of all, we are very happy to cooperate with the Economic and Trade Mission in Taipei. Thank you very much, Esther and Tzli, for doing this with us. So supply chain and maritime technology is such an important topic. thank you all for being here today. We have 4 excellent and amazing companies, Israeli companies, that will be presenting today. The floor is yours.
All right, okay, so please, I'd like to welcome our first keynote speaker, Mr. Wen. Mr. Wen, so you please feel free to also share your presentation with us.
Okay. Okay, gentlemen, can you see the screen that I shared to you?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very appreciative to have this chance to introduce some small part we have done recently in our university. Okay, I am the teacher of the maritime technologies. So usually in our campus, we just teach only shipping and nothing concerned about ocean surveys. But now, due to the highly increased demand of the offshore wind farm in Taiwan, so I found that we might expand our knowledge in ocean survey and data analysis and data application. Here, I want to do an introduction of the capability of National Kaohsiung University of Science and Technology in ocean data collection and applications. And my topic is some briefing about equipment, present capability, future development, and conclusions. Here, in our campus, we mainly concentrate on maritime science. Okay, we have a small campus at offshore, a small islands at southern Kaohsiung cities. And due to the huge budget for this investment, so personally, I don't want to expand the budget from the government. Instead, I invite a small company in Taiwan. I told them you can establish a company and incubate in our university, and we try to assist you to expand your business in ocean survey. And in that time, at 2009, they start to incubate in the university. So I share as a consultant as their company. And from the beginning, they have only 4 employees, but now they're up to 100 people in the company and almost occupy about 80 to 90% of ocean surveying in Taiwan, especially offshore wind farm. And practical capability is bathymetric survey, topographic survey, geological survey, magnetic survey, wreck search, wreck case recovery, survey data analysis and application. For myself, I also concentrate on integrated navigation system design. So this a small boat, just 300 tons, but we organize a lot of equipment on board ship. The investment is huge, but we haven't spent any budget from the university, just from the local resource. So there's some pictures shows there the vessels, local build vessels. And here's our equipment. We get lots of equipment on board ship, and this we train students on board and told them how to collect bathymetric data with these vessels. And because we do some business for offshore LNG pipeline inspection, and we use our equipment. We have engaged about 15 years to do some inspection for the Chinese petroleum companies LNG pipeline, starting from Kaohsiung almost to Taipei every year. So there's some sample here. Okay. We also do some research for using the 3D sonar to do some real-time inspections, because the visibility underwater close to Taiwan is very poor. So we use the 3D sonar instead of the camera. And due to the sediment here, the erosion around coastal Taiwan is very complicated. So we have some kind of seismic equipment to do some deep penetration. You can see here, there's a deep hole. There's an ancient seabed here. There's the new sediment. The thickness about 30 meters. There's some huge erosions due to some gas ship from the bottom. And here some sample, we train the student not only to navigate the surface ship, we train them how to navigate the ROV to do something, So we have trained some quite a lot of people for the ROV inspection and wreckage recovery. And here, a good sample, we integrate a system, a deep tow system. This system has been used for the Malaysian airline MH370 search for 2 years. We also send our people to join the searching operation at Australia together with the Frugal Survey Company. So we work together and use our equipment. Here's the equipment that we use here. This tow body is quite similar to a small boat. We have many sonar on this here, and it can dip and tow deep up to 6,000 meters. Here, after that, we can show you some survey data application. We have used all the data to use for ROV underwater navigation, underwater cable barrier operation, rock dumping operation, underwater towing operation, and underwater trenching and dragging operation, underwater rescue operation. We collect all the data and merge into our integrated navigation system to engage this type of operation at present. And there's some sample you can see here. This is some kind of nautical chart we use on our EDIS. But now, because we have collected lots of data here, so we have used this type of chart. This type of chart is 3D, and with digital information, the grid cell is 1 by 1 meter. So we get adequate and very detailed of seabed conditions. And here's some sample. That's 10 years ago, we tried to find some wreck, and I fly the ROV to identify. At that time, I don't have this type of system. I just use to mark the boundary. I fly here, the black cloud here. Here's the track of our surface ship, this track of our ROV. I used to navigate here. And because it's very risky, because the wreckage, there's a lot of garbage and abandoned fishing net around here. So it's too risky to fly the ROV at this region. But now we have used the surface sonar data to put it mosaic merge it on our EDIS chart. What you can see is the shape of the wreck. And when we fly through here, we can show you at real time. You can see here, there's sample here, wreck here, our ROV here, and you can predict the high variations in the future. At present, we use the system. We develop our own. Here, another samples. Here, many maybe for military application or some type of purpose. We used our magnetometer to measure the magnetic field, and then we produce some kind of magnetic field chart onto our EDIS. You can show the magnetic variation around the chart. And also we put some side scan image merge onto the 3D bathymetric image. Here's some demo we have done before. Here we do some wreck identification required by the insurance company. At first, we used our surface sonar. We found a wreck here, and then we fly the ROV to identify the ship's name. Here's some sample here. here is another, sorry, here's another thing. We do some research for the underwater volcanic activities. You can see here this at the western coast of Taiwan. From our surface sonar, we can detect there's a seamount underneath. It's huge seamount, and you can see the eruption from our sonar. And we fly the ROV down, and we find the eruption of the volcanic activity at the seabed. Here at the top is the water depth is 400 meters water depth, and the bottom about 1,000 meters. So this underwater hill seamount of around the height around 600 meters. Here we also do some seabed samplings and for cable barrier for offshore wind farm application. Here is another story. The LNG pilot from close to Taiwan to Taoyuan. So total length about 300 kilometers. Because due to the seabed erosions, and we found some free span of the seabed. So because if the free span is too long, I think will cause some damage to this LNG pipeline. So we use our ROV to install the grounding back here to support it. So at the very beginning, we have no experience. But anyway, at present, we have, we have some experience to do some, to do something underneath, even the visibility is very poor. Sorry. Oh, sorry. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I'm sorry because they told me the PowerPoint is not stable. Right? I have to restart again.
Okay. So would you like to restart your PowerPoint?
Yeah, he asked me to restart the PowerPoint again.
Okay. Okay. Now you can do so.
Okay. And somebody just told me it's not stable. I cannot do anything. I think because the time is short.
Okay.
Well, Dr. Wen, Chuan, thank you very much for your in-depth, in-depth unintended presentation. I think many of the areas that you've gained experience with are also very relevant for what we are experiencing within Israel, with the development of the LNG fields for both drilling and obviously researching and exploring. And naturally, I think the progress that Taiwan has made with the development of the offshore wind farms gives us in Israel a lot to learn from and to look for future years. And I will be very happy if we could maybe in the future cooperate on these features. So thank you again, Mr. Wen. If any of the participants have any questions for Mr. Wen or for the university, please feel free to leave them in the chat and we might be able to address them at the end of our event today at the Q&A part. Estelle, moving on for our next keynote speaker.
Okay, so also Professor Wen, if you would like to share your presentation with the audience today, you can I can also send it to the audience who might be interested in your presentation.
Okay.
Okay,
No
thank
problem.
you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So next up, let me welcome Mr. Gadi Ben-Moshe, the Managing Director of Marinovators, a consulting firm focusing on digital transformation, innovation, and cybersecurity in the maritime supply chain. But since Mr. Ben-Moshe cannot be with us today because he's in Nigeria, we pre-recorded a session with him. So I will share the screen, his insights in a video with you all.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity to share with you my views in the innovation in the maritime domain. So let me start by sharing my presentation. So, okay. So what I'm going to talk about today is the maritime innovation ecosystem in Israel as an example. My name is Gadi Ben-Moshe. I'm Managing Director of Mara Innovators. Mara Innovators offering consulting services of digital transformation, innovation, and cybersecurity, mainly for port authorities, port operators, and maritime tech startups. I have international activity in the recent years, and one of them related to the innovation. I'm leading the International Association Ports and Harbor Innovation Working Group, and we are preparing a number of activities. One of them, we call it Harbor Cafe. It's a webinar for sharing information between ports, and also we will develop a number of white papers regarding innovation, especially for ports, as we did last year about cybersecurity for ports. I'm also an IMO, International Maritime Organization expert, working and helping countries around the world, like Nigeria, for developing a port committee system, the Indian Ocean Commission for developing a maritime single window, and so on. And my experience comes from 15 years that I was working in the Israel Ports Company, being the CIO of the company. So if we are talking about the innovation ecosystem, first of all, let's meet Israel trade. Israel, it's an island economy because of 99% of our international trade is done by our seaports. So for us, having a very efficient transportation and maritime supply chain is very important for our economy. For that reason, you can see here the ports that there are in Israel. Today in Israel, we have 6 commercial ports, and in different regions of the country. Near the city of Haifa, we have 3 ports: Haifa Port, Israel Shipyard Port, and the Bay Port. And in the south, near the city of Ashdod, we have Ashdod Port and the South Port. Both regions are in the Mediterranean, and we have also in the Red Sea another port called the Eilat Port near the city of Eilat. There are 2 commercial ports that are state-owned, the Haifa Port and Ashdod Port, but one of them, Haifa Port, it's in a very advanced process of privatization. The others are private, the Israel Shipyards and the Eilat Port, and 2 are private, but are operated by international companies. The Bay Port is operated by a Chinese company, SIPG, and the South Port is operated by TIL. It's a subsidiary of MSC, the Swiss company. And those 2 ports recently they started operating in 2021. They are recently opened and operating, and still helping us to cope with the supply chain problems that we face today around the world. Another stakeholder that we have here. It's the administration of shipping and ports. It's the regulator of the ports in Israel. And the Israel Ports Company, in which I worked until last year, it's the company that develops and the ports of Israel, and it's the landlord of the ports of Israel. A few more words about the Israel Ports Company. Its goal is to promote efficient trade, maritime supply chain, and the Israel Ports Company does it in two ways, developing the Israel seaports infrastructure in the physical aspects, but also in the digital aspects. And it's very important, and I say a few words about that in a minute. And recently, also Israel Ports Company is the one that gives the pilotage and tax services all around at the ports of Israel. The digital infrastructure that the Israel Ports Company is developing, it's by developing the Israeli Ports Community System. With this system, the majority of the processes in the Israeli maritime supply chain are digital and paperless. I say the majority because there's still, we always find one paper that they still have to be digitalized, and we are working on that. Mainly, it's about international documentation and certificates, and I think that we will talk about it in a few minutes. Some of the startups, the company that Israeli have in Israel are tackling this issue. The services that the Israeli Port Community System is offering, it's EDI message brokers for exchange of information between the stakeholders of the maritime supply chain, web API services for interactive communication between the stakeholders, and also online services. And this is more because it's very important to help also the small companies to connect and be digitalized. So online services helps small companies, like a company with only one truck, to handle the digital communication that have to be handled with the ports and the port stakeholders. And when we talk about the port, we talk about all the supply chain, because a warehouse, okay, it's also like a port without the sea. So it's important when you look at the maritime trade to look at all the supply chain, including the warehouses, including the exporter and importer warehouses, the depots, and the ports themselves. This system is widespread in Israel, and more than 2,000 companies are connected to the system, and more than 4,000 online users are connected. So it's a wide spread in Israel, and this system received a number of International Association of Port and Harbors IT awards. But we are here to talk about the innovation ecosystem, so let's talk about that and focus on that. I believe that the ecosystem is the catalyst of innovation implementation. And in Israel, one of the important things is that the government is encouraging us to be, and the government companies, to be an active factor in innovation. They tell the government-owned companies to define innovation mechanism also in the organization level, because it's not enough. You have also to organize your organizational structure to handle innovation, to integrate innovation in all the company's activities, not only in the technological one, but in all, also in business processes and business models, to implement innovative technologies, goes without saying. But one, in my opinion, one of the main things that, and important things that they encourage the government-owned companies to do, is to make the national infrastructure available for startups. We don't want startups, okay, if they want to test something in, let's say, in a port, okay, we have ports, we have infrastructure here, we have to make it easy for them to use this infrastructure to do their pilot, and don't have to go abroad to do a pilot with all the impact that it has. It also allows government-owned companies to do investment in startups this, I think it's less important than the other activities, in my opinion. In the innovation ecosystem, one of the main players is the government companies authority that, as I said before, encourage and does all these things that I mentioned. But also we have a specific authority for innovation. It's the Israeli Innovation Authority that help us encourage innovation. But this is not only for ports, it's for all the other domains that are in Israel, other means of transportation and other fields like health and other domains. In the ports, we see other stakeholders of the innovation ecosystem. As I said, the Israel Ports Company is one of them. And cooperation with academy is a very important issue to encourage innovation, to promote innovation. And for that reason, Israel Ports Company, with one of the leading universities in Israel, the Technion of Haifa, they have a joint company, 50-50%, called Cameri, that is focused on doing studies in the maritime domain. The terminal operators, of course, they are also an important stakeholder in the innovation ecosystem, and there is part of them are very active, and one of them is the Port of Ashdod, is very active in innovation. Startup accelerators is also an important factor. You need for development, you need the funds and the environment. So startup accelerators helps on that. In Israel, we have a dedicated maritime tech accelerator called the DOC, and helps the maritime tech companies in Israel. There is also Contact that is dedicated for construction, but we talked before, also in the ports, you have a lot of construction, new terminals and new depots and so on and so forth. So also innovation in this field is important. And recently, in the recent years, also Ariely Capital started to invest in blue ocean maritime startups. And last but not least, the startups are the main users of and stakeholders of this innovation ecosystem. And as I mentioned before, and I want to share with you some of the activities of the Ashdod port about innovation. One of them is this call that they have for pilots, and they in this call for pilots and also have an option for purchasing after the pilot the products, and also to even purchase the company's share as a government decision, as I told you before. Recently, there is a cooperation of Ashdod Port with a global company called 500 Global, and they are doing a joint accelerator for startups. When you talk about innovation, most will talk with you about technology. There is a lot of buzzwords that you will hear, and 5G, blockchain, of course, IoT, AI. I want to introduce a new acronym. Let's talk about biocomputing. Okay, let's talk about using biological material for computing purposes, mainly for data storage and IoT. With a lot of information that we will have, we'll need a lot of storage, and biocomputing will help. But in my opinion, the technology is the tool, it's not the goal. We have in the port section to constantly look about improvements and new services to our customers, of course, that are powered by new technologies, innovation. But the important thing to look at is to look at the outcome, what we want to achieve. And I can suggest a number of fields that we want to achieve in the maritime domain. One of the outcomes that we shall look, and today it's very important for all of us, is sustainability. And for that, also we can look for the tools that help that sustainability. One of them is digital transformation. A study recently made tells about how much trying to quantify how much CO2 emission it's reduced by digital transformation, and it's huge reduction. So it's very important. And for that, there are a number of Israeli startups working on that. One of them is AI Doc, that does automation of custom classifications. Another one, it's a WaveBL, that is digitalizing the documents of title, like a bill of lading, and it's very important. But we have others and other important companies also, startups working on that. Physical solution, it's also very important, and we have a number of startups. Part of them we will talk today. There is Echo Wave Power that uses technology for turning sea waves into green electricity, and also eConcrete that they will share with you their solution further on. Also, let's look about efficiency, how to be more efficient. And we can use a number of tools for that. Supply chain visibility and operation efficiency is very important. And also part of the startups that we'll present today work on that. Logino, Made4Net, and ContGuard are giving solutions that, among other things, help us for achieving this outcome. Also, port infrastructure, construction, and maintenance is very important. We invest a lot in them. We have to do it more efficient. And there are a number of Israeli startups working on that. DocTech is one of them that gives continuous depth monitoring, not only for ports, also for rivers around the world. Sierra helping us decoding the underwater video images. It's also for the construction. It can also help because a lot of underwater video recording in construction, during construction, but also, of course, in maintenance. It's very important for that. And security and safety, it's a very important issue to look at these days. And not secure. When I talk about security, I talk also about cybersecurity. That the risk are a lot of risk, cyber risk today. And one of the companies, startups companies that there are, it's EasySec that does industrial cybersecurity. And we look at the port also like a factory. There's a lot of OT, operation technology around the port that needs this security. And the other company, mostly about safety, it's and security, is Orca AI with the ship anti-collision systems that also will help in the future the autonomous ships. So, as you see, Israeli, we like to call ourselves a startup nation, and it's why we are home for over 8,000 high-tech companies in different sectors, as this study of the Israeli Innovation Authority showed recently. But in the maritime, we have a lot of companies, and this is the outcome of the ecosystem that I showed you during the last few minutes. This ecosystem helped us come from, as I recall, 3 years ago, about 30 companies to today, almost 200 startup companies that works in the maritime domain. So let me finish with this quote of a great person that in his 90s said that he doesn't regret any of his dreams. His only regret is not having dreamed more. And I hope that in your country you will dream and implement a lot of innovation in the ports and in the maritime supply chain. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Gadi Ben Moshe, for sharing your insights and also for inspiring us with the maritime technologies in Israel and also the quote. So after hearing your insights, I think the audience, and of course, including myself, have questions for you regarding your presentation. So you introduced the massive ecosystem that Israel has to offer. So we can see that, yes, these technologies do help facilitate efficiency and also security, as well as optimization and sustainability. But also we also see some challenges. So can you maybe talk a little bit about the main challenges you've seen when introducing innovation into ports, and perhaps what is the best way to address them?
Yes, there's a lot of challenges. We can talk all day about the challenges of innovation, but let me try and choose. Let me try and choose two challenges. First off, one of them is the time, because the ports are operating. They are busy handling millions of containers and thousands of containers each day and millions per year. So they are busy doing the day-to-day tasks. And innovation is always something that you can put off until tomorrow. And so my suggestion in how to address this challenge is first, the management. The management of the company, the port, or any maritime supply chain stakeholder, it has to allocate the necessary resources for innovation. It shall start with one person who is dedicated to innovation. Innovation is not a part-time job, it's a full-time job. And also continuing measuring the innovation activities with all of the company's departments. And this is very important. It's also innovation shall be measured, and so you can see the progress of innovation. So as I said, one of the challenges is time. The second that I would like to share with you, it's language, okay? Because startups and ports don't speak the same language, even if they are in the same country. The startups want to make maybe a pilot, and he wishes to sell his product and as quickly as possible. And the port, mainly those that are government owned today, they have a long administrative processes for pilots and for purchasing. So these are two languages, and this challenge should be addressed by first by the port. You have to adapt special administrative processes for working with startups, and so this is in some way will reduce the time, reduce the bureaucracy, and the startups need patience. So this is two challenges that I can share with you in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, I see that. Also, you mentioned about the pilots, right? Doing pilots. So, we also, for the past couple of years, we're also seeing innovation hackathons and pilots, as well as challenges for introducing new technologies into these different areas, including ports. So do you think that these, various ways, including hackathons, challenges, and pilots, and do you see them as an efficient tool for stimulating innovation in ports?
Okay, first of all, it's one tool. Okay, yes, I see it as one of the tools, and I see it because as a few reasons. First of all, in hackathon, it forces you to sit down and think and define the most important challenges that you have in the port. Okay, it forces you to do that, and only this thought exercise helps you continue in innovation. Also, it stimulates startups from another domain to develop solutions for the maritime domain. Okay, there are a lot of, as I said before, one of the companies giving solutions for industry. Okay, they didn't look in the past around the ports, but they can modify a bit the solutions, and then we can have an innovative solution also for the port. And also, a pilot is a quick way to demonstrate the benefits of the new technology or the products. In any case, what is important, it's that it's a tool, but you have to take in mind when you're doing a hackathon pilot, you have to take in mind all the process. Okay, because what will happen after the hackathon? What will happen after the pilot? Be prepared in advance how to make a large-scale implementation. Okay, because if you just plan for the hackathon, there will be no efficient result. Plan it all the way. This is my opinion on that.
Okay, thank you for sharing your opinions on this as well. Also, as far as the cybersecurity aspect goes, do you also, we know that the cybersecurity is also a big concern when introducing this new technology. So what do you see are some of perhaps the major security concerns when introducing new innovation?
Yes, cybersecurity, as I said before, it's a main concern without innovation and between us. Introducing innovation, digital solutions and technological solutions, it increases the cyber risks. But it shall not scare us. It's part of the challenges, and we have to be prepared for this challenge. And also, so what we shall do, it's something that it's called cybersecurity by design. We have to integrate cybersecurity measures already in the first moments of the development, first moment of the implementation of new technology and services. So taking cybersecurity into account from the first moment will help us and will reduce the risk of cyber security incidents. So again, be aware, but don't be afraid, and handle it.
Okay, be aware and don't be afraid to handle it. That's good. That's good opinion. That's good idea. Okay, thank you for your advice. We thank you for sharing insights with us today, and we hope to talk to you soon, perhaps in the future, and looking forward to more insights regarding maritime innovation. Thank you, Mr. Gadi Ben Moshe.
Thank you all.
All right, so I believe after hearing these two informative keynote speeches, you are now as excited as I am about the Israeli technologies that we're going to hear in today's session as well. So the first Israeli company that I'd like to introduce is ConGuard.
מאיר, אתה על מיוט? אתה יכול לשתף מסך.
Mr. Levy,
Okay.
yes.
Yes.
We can hear you now.
You can see the screen?
Not
yet.
yet.
Hold on. Right. You can see it now?
Not yet.
Hold on.
Okay. Now we
How
can
about
see your
now?
screen.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. Do you see it in full screen?
Yeah, I think full screen.
Okay.
But with the file.
This is sufficient. Please carry on.
Okay, perfect. So thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm very excited, and Dajia Hao to all the Taiwanese friends and colleagues that are hearing us today. My name is Meir Levy, and I'm from the business development team in ConGuard. And actually, I'm very excited because Taiwan is one of my favorite countries. I used to live there about 15 years ago. So very special feelings for this country and for the people. And today I want, in the 10 minutes that I have, to present you our solution of ConGuard. And let me start with the presentation. You can see it, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. So basically, ConGuard was established as a company to meet the expectations, the demand, and the problem of the market. Actually, we were facing at the very beginning that we established the company that a lot of companies and organizations, they have full control of their goods, whether it doesn't matter what they produce, when it's still on their warehouse, in their premises, but once it's leave the warehouse on its way to the destination, to the client, they have lack of visibility. And this is a problem that they wanted to tackle. And actually, CoinGuard was established to fulfill this demand. And the main idea is to use an IoT based units. I mean, we have a solution that combine both hardware and software. So to use IoT units, which will be installed on the container when it's going from its warehouse until it reaches to the destination. And by that, when we have the IoT device installed on the container or by the way, any other cargo, we can have full supply chain visibility and control for the manufacturer. I mean, we address mainly for the owners of the good, okay, big organization or private companies that have a lot of shipments with a lot of volume, high value, okay? This is our main targets and our main focus. And we help them to actually monitor and give alerts about security and quality alerts about what's going on with their shipments. And for that reason, we have also a lot of agents all over the world, because when we have to install the unit, the IoT device on the container, somebody needs to collect it when it reaches the destination. So for this reason, we have a global widespread of people that are helping us, and the client doesn't need to do anything. You just need to take it out and we collect it by ourselves. And we work, as you can see here in the slide, that we are working with all kind of segments and sectors. We are working with tobacco, cigarettes, because there's a lot of theft and steals. And we work with the pharmaceutical because they need to monitor temperature and humidity of their, drugs, pills, vaccines, whatever. We work in the retail with Amazon. We work with, of course, with the defense. I'm in charge for the defense companies in Israel and around the world, because the defense, of course, they are afraid that somebody will open and maybe steal or sabotage or do something to their defense or military goods when they are in transit to the destination. We are working also with the automotive, and there are a few more. So basically, if we are talking about the main challenge, the main challenge is quality and security. And once we have our unit deployed on and installed on the container, we can fully alert and give the clients, we have 24/7 escalation center command and control in our premises that can tell the clients if something has happened. Okay, so if somebody is open and want to steal or do something, we have light on a alert that somebody opened the door of the container, and then we can call, we can text, we can send email, whatever the client wants. We have escalation procedure, and then you have full visibility and you know how to operate, not in crisis mode when you find in the end of the way that something has happened, but you have real-time alerts, so you can tackle the disaster or the crisis in real time. And basically, beyond the control and the quality control and the feasibility, the main problem as we see it is what we call the black hole, because as you can see here, from one point to another, there is a lot of hands that touching the goods until it's reached the destination. And each part of this, whether it's in the port or whether it's in the truck or in the train, whatever, until it reaches the destination, it can cause some loss or something is broken, impact, whatever. And this is something that we help the client to monitor. Here is a very good example of something that happened in Mexico in one of our clients. Actually, somebody opened the container in an unauthorized area. We had in the past, previously the route setup, and we knew that it was open, not in the place that it was supposed to be open. So we alerted the client, and he immediately operated the first responders, the local police in Mexico. And actually, they saw that somebody is even stealing the truck with the container on it. And then it's like really in the movies, the police caught them. This is the application, what we showed them, suspected security event, and eventually everything comes to good. So imagine yourself how much you can save to the companies in such case, you know, millions of goods inside in this case, it was cigarettes. So imagine yourself how many packets of cigarettes you have in this and the volume and value of this. So this was very beneficial for the client. This is something also, you know, happen in reality when you open it and you see some boxes are missing. So this is something that we monitor, and basically when we do so, we help our clients to decrease, okay, all this kind of losses. People see our monitoring device. And by the way, another layer besides the alerts is the algorithm. We have very sophisticated software that actually monitor and give access to see real-time monitoring what's happened with your shipment, the location, everywhere it's the stops, if it's there is deviation of the route, estimated time to arrival, all this kind of thing. And by when we have the special AI-based software, we also can analyze the shipment, post-shipment. We collect all the data of the shipments, and then we can say, okay, listen, guys, we have a problem in this route, maybe you change it. Okay, there's all this time still in this way and not others. We always bring abnormalities in cases, and then in that case, the client know how to better operate, manage the entire logistics, the supply chain, make it more efficient and save money. This is another example of quality of vaccine that we are monitoring, especially, you know, temperature and humidity for the clients. This is the entire ecosystem, the service that we manage for the goods in transit. So we have multiple IoT. We have IoT that's used for reefer containers, for dry containers, special locks, sophisticated locks, which are keyless, and special units for loose cargo, which is not in container and could be also on air. We have the global logistic management, as I said, the 24/7 escalation center that can give alerts in real time. We also integrate, and we have API with some other third parties software and data that we collect from the vessel, for the ports, train lines, news, weather. And this is for the reason because the clients wants, especially in these days after COVID, the ETA. When is my cargo should arrive to the destination on real time? Because we know we have many delays and everything that's going on in the ports. So this is something, as long as we continue to collect more data, we can be accurate with what we give to our clients. So this is once again the units that we have. This is how you install them. It's very easy. Each unit it's defined to different kind of cargo. Mainly, I would say 90% is going by sea, but not necessarily. Okay, so this is the units, as I said, that we have. And this is how the software looks like. Actually, we give access to our clients so they can see by themselves what is going on with their cargo, or which is on the way. So this is all the security shock alerts that we can give, and you can see how it looks like in the map. Here is an example of theft in Rotterdam, and this is exactly what the client could see. When there is a light on and door open, we identify that it's a suspected security event, because maybe it's something that is not necessarily a security event. Maybe the custom open it for check, or the security, the authorities in the port. But our job is just to alert and say, hello, client, there is something going on with your shipment, with your cargo. Please check it, okay? And they should do what they have to do according to their procedure. This is another example of security event. When we see that the door was open for 1 minute, we think that it's something we should not be in this specific location. And then we can tell the client, look, the container was open at the port of Constanta in Romania, okay? So he knows where to tackle the problem. By the way, it's very good for the insurance issue, because insurance, if there is some problem, there is a loss, they want to know exactly when it was happened from their investigation, in order maybe to sue back the people who was in charge, or to do any kind of an investigation with the local authorities. So we help them by that. This is something that you see post shipments. I mean, after we collect a lot of data, we can compare and bring a lot of actionable insights, which is very, very high volume, and to all the operation manager, logistic, export managers, that they can know in which time their cargo was in idle, I mean, not in move or in movement, which carrier it was more days or less days, how many days it was stayed in the port of destination, in a port of loading warehouse. All this data we can collect and present post shipments to the client, and then he can know how to improve and make it more efficient, and as I said before, to save time and money. This is something that I told you before. We are working with the insurance. Insurance really likes us. But by the way, most of the two mainly insurance companies, AXA and Allianz, were investing in ConeGuard because they saw the value of telling their clients, Maritime Insurance, to use ConeGuard in order to minimize risk. This is this. And this is something that recently we've been developing. This is something that the client, part of the client wanted. I think one of the keynote speakers was saying a few words about it before. Now everybody is speaking about green solutions, sustainability, and there is a trade in carbon footprint and emissions. And this is something that we can also do. We can measure. We have a special algorithm that we've developed in order to measure the pollution that the container, or maybe the truck, or maybe by air, doesn't matter. We have some kind of a solution that can tell the clients to give the data, and he can use it for his own usage. So that's it. Thank you very much for the opportunity to present to you, and feel free through the Trade Commission to ask me anything that you want, maybe later today, or send me by mail, and I will be happy to touch base later on.
Thank you, Mayor. So next up, we're going to have Michal from eConcrete with us.
I would like to add that to each and every one of our participants, if you have any question during the presentation of the company afterwards, we're going to have a few minutes of Q&A at the end, but if you have a question during, please feel free to write it down in English or in Chinese at the chat. Since we are all participants, this is not some remote webinar. We are all equal participants. You can write down your question at the chat, and we will ask the relevant representative from the company to address it live, or afterwards, we will make sure to connect you guys directly. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you see my screen? Can you hear me properly?
Yes, we can.
Fantastic. Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Very good morning here, traveling out of Israel, so early time here. My name is Michal, and I'm going to present eConcrete. But before I start, usually I don't do that, but I think in this forum it is very relevant. I would like to present myself in a nutshell before the company. I've been part of the maritime industry for over a decade, and before joining eConcrete, I used to be with Maersk in charge of merger and acquisitions of seaports under APM terminal. This is why I'm very, very excited to present the combination of port construction and eConcrete, and now I will start explaining what do we do. So bringing concrete to life. What we developed is applied solution for ecological footprint for coastal and marine infrastructure. But maybe I will start with why. Climate change and increase of storm intensity is not something that is unfamiliar. But what it leads to is coastal hardening. With about half of the world population residing along the coastline, there is more and more construction that we see. And what happens is that, in fact, 70% of coastal and marine infrastructures are concrete-based. And concrete is a pretty harsh material when it comes to marine environment. What we see is poor water quality and dominance of invasive species, and we see low biodiversity. What we came up with, eConcrete's technology is, let me just try to move the bar here so the slide is not going to Not sure if you can see that properly. All right. The Zoom bar, I'm not sure if it
No, we cannot see your Zoom bar, Michal, but you can pin it.
Fantastic.
We can pin it to your top, and you can continue.
Right.
And just to mention that Professor Wen spoke in his lecture about the poor quality of water in the Taiwanese shore, and Taiwan is one of the most crowded places in the world. And most of the population in Taiwan is centered in the western shores of the country.
Thank you. What we came up with, it's an ecological technology that complies with the concrete industry standard. Today, we are the only environment concrete technology that is aligned with the standard. It means that everything is one-stop shop. There isn't a need for doing compensation as reef balls, artificial reefs, or anything that is not on site, but it's actually the structure itself which becomes to be the solution. That allows us to reserve the beautiful and highly productive natural coastline ecosystems like oyster reefs and corals and mangroves, while not making any compromise for the structural functionality, stability, and strength of the infrastructure. Let me explain what we came up with. It's a three-part solution. Talking about the material composition, we came out with an admixture that represents 10% of the cementitious component within the concrete, that what it does is to neutralize the negative effects of concrete on marine life. Then we looked at the surface complexity. I mean, this picture that you see here in the middle, it's if you're thinking concrete, you're thinking about something very straight, very industrial, very smooth. And what we came up with, it's something that mimics nature. If you're going to think about a rock, that's the texture that you're going to look for. And then we looked at the micro design. What we did was to look at nature. We looked at the shells of a coral or the pulps of the shells of an oyster or the pulps of a coral. We looked at tide pools. We looked at mangroves, and we took all of that together and tried to mimic what nature designs for us. Our solutions are bringing a lot of ecological advantages as increase of biodiversity, reduction of dominance of invasive species, and increased aesthetics, but not less important, it actually helps to protect the infrastructure, makes it better, longer lasting, and stronger by a process that is called bioprotection. What happened is that the skeletons of organisms that grow on the concrete are shielding it, making it less vulnerable for erosion, reducing the chloride penetration, and in the long run translates into reduction of maintenance costs. Let me try to explain how it works. So what you see here is a piece of concrete that has been put in the Mediterranean for 12 months. This is what you see after. You don't see the concrete anymore. What you're seeing is oysters and cube worms and aquatic algae that are thriving on the concrete, completely shielding it. But let's try to translate that if we're talking about some measurable effects. Because we're working with nature and enhancing the biodiversity, increasing the biological communities of calcifying organism, we're creating an active carbon sink. Every 1 kilometer of a seawall, as an example, is sequencing 2 tons of CO2 per year. This is equivalent to 100 adult trees. And that's something that is not happening just once. This is happening throughout the lifespan of the project. So in 60 or 120 years, the system will continue to turn CO2 into calcium carbonate skeletons in a very healthy process. Let's look at the water quality. So again, 1 kilometer of a seawall, filtering almost 1,100 Olympic swimming pool every year throughout the lifespan of the project. We have versatile solutions going from armor block, tide pools, marine mattresses, and so on. And I wanted to show you some examples of how does it look compared to a control. Here you can see our unit after 6 years at the sea. In this case, it's an armor block. This is the control unit. Here we're looking at marine mattress in order to stabilize a shoreline inside a port in Florida, in the US. So what you can see is our unit and the control unit 3 months past installation. Here what you can see is the inside of a tide pool. This is pre-installation, and this is after 1 year. You don't see the concrete anymore. It's completely covered and shielded with biology. I brought few case studies that I'm going to run through very, very fast. We're doing shoreline protection, and this is the case study of the San Diego port. What we did here in the entrance to the port, there needed to be a 1-layer armor block in order to stabilize the shoreline. This is installation in March 21. 2 months after, you can already see some biology growing on that. 5 months after installation, you have lobsters, you have oysters, you have probably 2 if not 3 dozens of different organisms that are on the concrete. The concrete is completely shielded. 8 months after installation, and that's the interesting thing. 3 target species that the state of California were found in this installation. Why is it matter to the Port of San Diego? The fact that they managed to prove that they brought back target species helped them with the permitting for future development for the port. This is one example. Waterfront infrastructure. So anything, any concrete that is touching the water, tunnels, bridges, ports, marinas, jetties, and so on, we have solutions for piles. In this case, it's the Brooklyn Bridge Park that you can see. What you're still going to see, the quality of the picture is not fantastic, but those are piles. The Brooklyn Bridge Park is located, is sitting on piles that, as you can see, not in fantastic quality. And every time what they used to do in the past is just to put another jacket and another jacket and running out of space. What we did was to develop these special jackets with our technology. And what you can see here, those are the piles. This is how it looks like instead of the concrete. Finally, so I said shoreline protection, waterfront infrastructure, and we also do solutions for the offshore. Mooring systems, car protection, marine mattresses for stabilization and for coverings of pipes. Here there is an example of a pipe that is being covered in Long Island with marine mattresses that we developed. Yeah, I think the pictures are telling the story. We have over 40 installations in 8 different seas, 11 different countries. And finally, I want to conclude talking about, finish here, talking about impact. So the technology has been designed in order to support environment, in order to increase the biodiversity and improve the water quality, and to create an active carbon sink. But very important is the fact that not only it does good for the environment, it actually does good for the project. In a project level, we're helping to facilitate permitting and reduce the time, obviously. Mitigation costs are being decreased dramatically, up to 40% saving on a project level, and some fantastic case studies that I can present, and lower maintenance for the long run because of the bioprotection process. This is what we call our win-win solution. Thank you.
Thank you, Michal, for sharing your insights and what you guys do for the marine biolife and the biodiversity. Again, if you have any questions for our speakers today, you can write it down in the chat box or afterwards through email. Next up is Lagino. So we're also going to learn about how their data collection, also the data of navigation, can help convert a container fleet into an IoT fleet.
Wonderful, thank you. Do you hear me? Do you hear me well?
Yes.
Okay, great. I'll share my screen, and while I do that, I'll introduce myself briefly. My name is Shachar Tal. I come from the shipping company world. I used to work for Tim Lines, so I understand container lines through and through. And actually, I'm like very excited sitting here because with me, not one but two, at least two companies sitting in the audience, which I would love to get a message across that is evergreen and one high. If you're looking at this, please pay special attention because at the end of the presentation, I would have an offer specifically for you. Do you see the screen with the containers and our logo?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
cool. So our name is Logino, which is short for Logistic Innovation. And our mission is to apply the Internet of Things, IoT, to create what we call Contopia. Contopia is a term we use to describe a world where every shipping container is smart, connected, basically turning dumb boxes into data miners, mining data regarding the physical aspects of the container's voyage, data which is super valuable. And I believe that when the years go by, there are more and more and more instances, for example, like was presented by Kontgard before me, about how that data is impactful and brings a lot of values to the market. A little bit about the experience of the team behind this. So, you have more or less one of the elite development crews in that Israel can offer. We've built artificial islands. We worked with defense to plant spies in the ground. We did cutting-edge medical devices. We really revolutionized power for remote locations. I mean, you'll see this presentation. There's not a lot of groups in the world with such experience and such abilities in a lot of areas like this one. We were also one of the pioneers in location-based commercial offers back in the 90s when it transitioned when GPS transitioned from military to commercial. So the team is very, very strong in what we do. And a little bit about the challenge. So most of the market that you'll see today are companies like Kontgard, which are successful because they sell directly to the shippers and bypass basically the shipping companies. The conduct is something unavoidable where the shipper has to put a tag on the container, and then at the end of the container's voyage, that tag gets taken off because otherwise, it's not under the shipper's control. Whereas our approach is completely different. We partner with shipping companies that own and operate a container fleet, and we basically work on transforming the entire fleet to smart containers, thereby eliminating the need to take these devices on and off. And for one setup operation, we basically have a container that works for its lifetime, which is for us 10 years. So you get more or less the same data, if not more. I'll show you a little bit things that we do uniquely. More or less the same data at really a marginal cost because there's no logistics involved after you install it on a container. We actually call it the world's smartest container. It is. I know the competition. And the abilities is, again, as I've said, 10-year lifetime. You've got all of the sensors that you know and some of the sensors that you don't know. But the idea is that it's not a GPS tag. It's basically like a unique brain that is attached to the container and can really bring you values beyond just location and GPS tag. And for example, a technology that we're working on that actually weighs the container for SOLAS VGM regulation. So you get the weight of the container along with the sensors. One of the nice things that I can say about it is that the location, this is patent protected for Logino, the location of the brain is in a standard container vent. So we also are the only ones that have an existing infrastructure to install them because every depot around the world knows how to install these things. It's exactly like a container vent with zero training. coupled with a simple but very effective predictive analytics software, we can go to shipping companies and we can tell them two things. One, you can start selling service to your customers, to the shippers in day one, once you start working with us. And two, you can use that data for your operational efficiency. And I could tell you a little bit about that later. We also have our focuses on what we call Contopia Labs, and that is where we grow the budding businesses that arrive from the smart container, and there are tons of them. For example, treating the brain as a black box for every container for insurance purposes. Again, insurance was spoken about. Don't have to elaborate. We talked about scaleless measurement. Cyber seal for containers for security purposes, replacing the physical seal with an electronic certificate. Commodity verification is something that we're working on right now with the Port of Ashdod, scanning the container to find the contents and matching that with commodity declaration to combat commodity fraud. Predictive schedule analytics that I showed you, and of course consulting, which is something that we're focused on. It's not out yet, it's going to be out next week. And that is the realization that with infrastructure comes the need to do digital transformation. So infrastructure is nice, smart container is nice, but how can I take that data and make it into insight and make it into something impactful for the organization to actually change and optimize the organizational processes based on the data from smart containers? That's very important. In a brief, to talk about our first customer, a company that actually won a competition that we held. It's a company from Brazil. They actually were acquired by MSC a few months ago, and I'll show you the results before and after. And what we've done with them is we have made a digital twin out of every shipment with the smart containers. So everything was moved, all the activities will move to the digital domains, balancing, triangulation, you name it. Everything is done digitally, and it is much, much, much more impacted and insightful. We got tons of press because of that. And just look at the stock of that company performing before and after we declared. In 2019, we declared that we're going to work together. And until then, they're a public company, so you can look at it. And until then, they were very traditional, very modern, very modest performance of the stock. Immediately after we announced, the stock rose 3x. They started behaving like a technology company rather than a utilities company, a shipping company. And actually, MSC bought them more than 3x. Even in COVID times, when the stock fell, they bought them in more than 3x, 25 Brazilian reals per share compared to 8.63, because of that dramatic improvement that they made. And it's really making Contopia a reality. For lack of time, I won't go very in-depth into this slide, but this is one of the products that we use or that we manufacture in order to present an ROI for a total fleet conversion. So one of the first things that we're going to do, if you'd be considered to work with us, is really to analyze everything and to give the board of directors the justification to go for a container fleet tomorrow morning, to understand that every day that passes without a smart container is a day of great losses. So at the end, I would like to invite Evergreen, I'd like to invite One High, and I would like to invite any shipping company that hears us that has a shipping container fleet to two things. First of all, we've made an evaluation kit for smart containers. You can try us out. You can click on a few clicks on the website and you can order this. So one thing is to examine the infrastructure, see that it's good for you, and get touch and feel whatever it is that we're talking about. A small scale smart container pilot. It's something that everybody must do right now, especially since the declaration of Hapag-Lloyd that they're going to convert their entire fleet. And secondly, and this is something that we're revealing now for the first time, actually, because it's only out, it's going to be out next week, is to start a process with us. And we are going to offer free preliminary digital transformation scan, a kind of a consulting that lasts for 8 weeks. And that consulting is headed by CS Anand, which was a VP of Meratus, the Indonesian shipping company, which is actually in the process with us. So you're going to get a scan and some ideas from a guy that was in charge of smart container transformation. I think that this is priceless, and you're getting this for free. So we invite you to think outside the container, think Lagino. Thank you.
Thank you, Shachar from Lagino, and we'll be more than happy to arrange further meetings for more business opportunities between Israel and Taiwan, of course. Next, we have Made4Net, a solution provider for supply chain software, including optimizations and also route planning and proof of delivery. Yes.
Yes, hello. Good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Ronan.
Okay. I'm going to share my presentation. Just let me know if you can see it in a full screen.
Not yet. We don't see it yet.
Okay. I need to do some swap. Just a moment.
Oh, we can see now.
Is that okay now?
Yeah, it's full screen.
Okay, great. So it is my pleasure to join this event, and I would like to thank you for inviting me to have the opportunity to to introduce you the Made4Net and our solution offering. Just a little bit about the company. The company was founded in 2005. Our people came from logistics. They understand supply chain very well. It's a company which is backed by a $1.2 billion fund of a private equity. We are kind of a cloud-based supply chain execution software vendor, and we do have a core competences in especially the WMS, warehouse management system. We had a rapid platform growth across the world. It's already 6 consecutive years on the Gartner Magic Quadrant for the WMS. And we do have a global partner, ecosystem partner, which are there worldwide. Just to give you a rough idea about numbers, we do have already more than 650 customers worldwide using the Made4Net solutions. We are active in more than 30 countries already, including Taiwan. Our solution also includes 20 different languages, including Chinese. We have quite of a high percentage of retention rate of 95% among our customer base. Just to give you an overview of our customer type, maybe not all names are known to you. Some of them are global, some of them less. But important things are the verticals, because we do have an offering relevant for both, for many different verticals. This is a retail and grocery, e-commerce, third-party logistics, which is quite of a big vertical that we are also focusing on, and food, manufacturing. And in very short, our solution and platform is relevant across all verticals, simply because every organization which has any type of logistic operation, we do have a great solution to offer to them. Just a bit about the presence. So the company is Israeli, and we do have also an office in the US and across Europe, like in UK and Czech Republic. We do have also a regional office in Asia, which is located in China. The team there is bilingual and also, of course, speak Chinese, and they are basically supporting the entire region of Asia, including Taiwan. Just now a little bit about the solution. We are actually kind of a one-stop shop for supply chain. The system name is SC Expert, which is Supply Chain Execution Suite. We thought about all needs of supply chain end-to-end, and that's include a management solution for the warehouse, for transportation, for routing, for delivery, yard management, and also containers management. So that's in a one solution, basically cover all supply chain needs. And this is something which is pretty much unique in our industry. If you go and check like other players in the market, and many of them having a solution only for one of the components here, while in our case, we thought about everything from the very beginning. And we do have also the system architecture designed to be modular, which means that our customers can select the components they need now as a standalone, and they can add at any time any additional components whenever they need it. And they will use the same database and the same user interface, something which will make their decision and operation of IT for the supply chain much more easy. Just to give you an how it looks like, so we do have kind of a dashboard screen, which is basically provided a kind of a graphical view and pictures of the operation. You know, it's kind of a colorful and nice, but it's actually, there is an importance of having a dashboard which can present the important information. It happens a lot that in supply chain operation and in general, you know, people managing the operation are busy with the small details and then they miss the big pictures. So here, basically, we present first the most critical and important information, and every data which the system capture can be presented here. This can be different from one customer to another, and also different from one user to another, depend on his role and his responsibility and the relevant data, which is important for his role. We have also a screen for warehouse floor user to be used on a mobile devices. So it's a kind of more of a simple menu, but can still be presented on a smaller screen in order to do the operation either on the warehouse or by driving a vehicle, or also on the port by handling the containers. This is just maybe that's the important thing. If we talk about value proposition, then these are the key elements which really makes our solution to be superior, and also kind of key differentiators from the competition. The first thing is about rich policy algorithms. So if things are in most cases decision need to be made by the team, here basically we take more and more responsibility into the system. We can basically implement or apply any type of operation policy into the system, so the user will get the instruction taking into account the policy already. So the space for mistake is minimized. It is a task management system, which means that the task to the entire team is basically directed by the system. So there is no need for active management done by human beings. System basically send to each user the next task to be done. And also this way also all the activity information is captured, and there is a lot of information, there is a lot of things can be done with this information, like analysis of finding bottlenecks in the operation, or predicting time of future tasks using the information from the past. Another key element is the connectivity. And this is something which is important because at the end of the day, a system or a solution in one way or another need to communicate with external system. In our case, this is something which is structured in the system to have the platform, which is about connectivity. It can be connect with ERP system, manufacturing system, sales platform, and many other and of course different type of automation. All these are things which can be done using a connectivity platform. And scalability. This is something which is important. The system was designed to be modified, and this is simply because we understand that customers are different one from each other, and every customer has its own unique and specific requirements. And moreover, in many cases, the customer is not aware of his requirement like 1 year from now or 2 years from now. System was designed to fit also the future requirements if we do have the API and customization tools to always adjust the system into the customer needs. So that was in a nutshell. Of course, we'll be happy to provide you more information later on and to have this discussion more specific into each and every customer specific requirements. Thank you all.
Thank you, Ronan, for your presentation. Also, some of the cases you shared with us, the applications. So we got a question from Jabi. So he's asking about more international practices, especially in the Asian region. Like, is it possible to apply this technology to the targeted countries with local, with local materials instead of shipping the material from abroad?
Yes, absolutely. This is something that we do have already in the region. Like we have it in China, we have it in Taiwan, we have it in the Philippines, and also in Hong Kong. We are now exploring more. We do have now more partners which are recruited and ready, and also in other countries in Asia, like Korea, like Indonesia, and Singapore and Malaysia. So yes, the answer is yes. One thing I want just to understand better is what does it mean from locally or from overseas? I mean, implementation is done locally by the team and or by our partner. So basically the know-how is anyway will be provided by a local entity. It could be either our office or a local partner on that region.
Okay, what about, because I believe this question is directed at all four Israeli companies. So,
okay.
Yeah, so thank you for answering, because, this is also important to the Taiwanese companies looking for Israeli solutions. Yeah, so perhaps this is directly more at the physical materials that are going to be needed in the implementation. So software may not be as relevant, maybe perhaps in regard to this question, but for other companies, if you have an answer, you can chime in. So the question is like, how do you apply this tech in the Asian region? And also, is it possible to locally source the materials instead of having to import it from abroad, like from Israel, for example?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I want to refer to this question. So basically, speaking on behalf of ContGuard, the IoT devices which we give to the client to install in its warehouse, okay, it's something that we can send either from Israel to the client, or as I told you, we have the local operation, the special agent in many places. We do not have in Taiwan, but we do have in Korea, in Singapore, in China, and they hold a stock of IoT devices, many kind of IoT devices for any use. If it's a reefer container, if it's a dry container, if it's aerial shipment, it doesn't matter. And they can supply it as soon as possible, because then we give them the order and they can send to the client. And when they ship it to another place, okay, the container, we will collect it and we give full support and service to any place that it will come. So for them, it doesn't matter. They do not need to handle and retrieve the IoT units, which by the way, cost a lot. Okay, we take care of that. For them, it's just to install it on the container, We just check that it's working. And when it's get to the destination, they just take it off. And we are handling for the pickup and everything. And by the way, if we are speaking about the technical issue, so we do have a special SIM card in the units, which is roaming and can transmit and get the data and collect information all over the world. Okay, so it's doing roaming, it's the best that we found in the market. So we do not have problems of connectivities in some places that maybe, you know, a Korean, Taiwanese company will send it to somewhere that we can say we cannot support. Of course, we will check in advance, but it's cover most of the places according to our experience.
Thank you, Mayor.
Can I answer on behalf of Logino?
Yes.
So for us, it's more of a project-based. So everything is like funneled into the project. Usually production is done in the country of origin, just because we're talking about high volume and everything. So in Brazil, it's a nightmare to import everything. So we do everything locally. In Taiwan, definitely Taiwan with one of the best production abilities in the world. It would be crazy not to produce in Taiwan. So everything could be sourced and done locally as part of this project.
All right, thank you. And Michal, yes.
Everything is being done locally, local labor, local materials. We're providing a technology and supporting the team that is on the ground.
All right, okay, thank you, Michal. Okay, so anything to add? Okay, if not, so I'd like to thank everybody instead, including the keynote speakers, as well as the pitching companies, the four speakers now, and also, of course, the participants, everybody for joining this great session. I've learned a lot myself, and I believe that everybody else has also. So if there's any more questions, or if you are interested in learning about the technologies from the pitching companies today, please feel free to write me an email. Esther, my name is Esther from the Israel Economic and Trade Mission in Taipei. I'm sure that we've been in contact before. So yes, so if there's no more question, we're going to end the session shortly. And then I will be in contact with you guys. And based on your availability, we will also help arrange meetings between the Taiwanese and Israeli companies. So thank you all again for joining. 那么我们就是会在信中我们可以继续联系。那我们这边的以色列经贸办事处也会安排会议，然后我们可以进行更进一步的讨论。那希望呢这次呢是一个初步的开始，可以有更多的这个航运跟海运的以及航海科技的一些交流机会，对于以色列跟台湾双边的一个交流。OK， 谢谢各位 ，Thank you，See you all，拜拜。
Thank you.